everybody. So for this video, I would like to discuss a few celebrities and famous faces of well-known people that do have their own share of mental health issues or mental health disorders. The reason why I wanted to do a video over this is because I know sometimes if an individual is diagnosed with certain mental illness or if they're exasperating some symptoms of a mental disorder, it can feel a bit alienating given all the stigma that's out there, or given the fact that they don't know exactly what to guide themselves off of, who to look to for support, who to look to as some sort of solace. So that's why I wanted to go over a video where I discuss a few of the more common mental health disorders and which celebrities are typically known to have them, because of the fact that if somebody knows or recognizes a name and they know it's somebody that they admire, someone who they appreciate, they see their work, and they see how they have been able to catalyze it into a creative manner or into their career or to serve other people, whether it be a movie, comedy, etc. So that kind of can give a person a little bit of a reassurance in an essence, where they won't feel like if they're the only one suffering it. While we can share with other individuals, it can help put a person into a perspective where they don't feel as if there's something wrong with them necessarily. They won't feel like there's something broken in them. They'll feel like, okay, this other person who I happen to admire or I look up to also does have to cope with this and find a way to live with this and integrate it into their lifestyle and integrate it into a way that works better for them. So I feel like it can help people not feel alienated. It can help people find some sort of idol, so to speak, of who to look up to whenever it comes to this and how they cope, their catharsis, their spoken outness of it all, because there's a lot of names here that are very vocal about their issue and try to destigmatize it and try to share mechanisms that have worked for them along their journey and who are very vulnerable to the public through social media typically to reach out to people who may feel the same way. So I hope that this helps and can prove a little bit more like of a refresher in the mental health field, so that way it's not always just the heavy stuff. It can be a little bit of something that can help people feel a little bit more related and a little bit more interconnected with the community of people that fall under a specific category in the mental health and psychology field. So to get started, let me list a few famous names that fall under the most common mental health disorders. Under anxiety is one of the most prominent mental health issues that people face. A lot of people face it at least one point in their lifetime or a couple moments, or it becomes a disorder that does carry on into their lives. But here are a few names of people who do have to battle anxiety and have coped with it. And as you can see, relating to their names, relating to their work, you can be able to connect all the dots of ways that they have been able to cope with it and ways that they have been able to excel in their lives despite it, to serve you and realize that you can have a life with that aside. So under anxiety disorder, some famous names: Oprah Winfrey, Stephen Colbert, Kourtney Kardashian, Busy Phillips, Selma Blair, Kristen Stewart, Adele, Ryan Reynolds, Missy Elliott, Kim Kardashian West, Kristen Bell, Prince Harry, Ellie Goulding, Chris Evans, Emma Stone, Miley Cyrus, Joey Vito, Sarah Silverman, Leonardo DiCaprio, Lena Dunham, Demi Lovato, Rachel Bloom, Dan Hams, Gina Rodriguez, Kendall Jenner, Zayn Malik, Lady Gaga, Selena Gomez, Ariana Grande, Hugh Grant, and Michael Phelps. Those are the people that have been outspoken about dealing with anxiety or dealing with any sort of anxiety disorder. And it helps destigmatize it, because while we can do the work within our communities, within each other, with interpersonal relations, it is important for, if there are people that have a platform, that have a little bit more of a fan base or a little bit more exposure to things, it opens up the conversation. And if celebrities use their platform for something positive, such as destigmatizing mental health, that can catalyze a lot of conversations, that can catalyze a lot of resources, that can catalyze a lot of inclusiveness for people who may feel that they're the only ones. So those that have been open about their dealings with depression, which is also a very, very common mental health disorder that many people, the majority of the population, will face at one point in their lives, or it may be repetitive, it may be chronic, it may become a disorder, or it can just be situational, or just an era in somebody's life. So people that do suffer depression and have been open about it is Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, Katy Perry, John Hamm, Lady Gaga, Michael Phelps, Kristen Bell, Bruce Springsteen, Gwyneth Paltrow, Ashley Judd, Naomi Judd, Ryan Philippe, J.K. Rowling, Sheryl Crow, Terry Bradshaw, Wayne Brody, Buzz Aldrin, Jim Carrey, Robin Williams, and Ellen DeGeneres. Those are celebrities that have been more vocal about dealing with any sort of depressive episodes, and I think that is very handy because I don't know if you notice that there's a little bit of a trend there. There's a trend there in people who are typically involved in comedy, and if you notice, you can tell that it's their way of coping because obviously, and I've even read a couple studies from them, I've read a couple of different interviews with them, that most of them say that they join comedy and when it comes to talking about depression because they want to make people laugh. They want to make people feel good because they know what it's like to feel depressed. So therefore their catharsis has been going into a role of comedy or getting into the world of comedy in order to entertain people and get them out of their heads and be able to laugh and feel a little bit of joy. Or they've been creative writers, or they have been motivational speakers, or they have found catharsis in other areas in their celebrity life. But I feel like you can kind of connect the dots to see how people have dealt with their disorder and how they have become an advocate for anyone who falls into that community or that category. Bipolar disorder, which is a disorder that is a little less common, but it is still one of the ones that gets talked about more and people know about more, which consists of manic and depressive episodes. It can range with unipolar depression, it can range with just manic depression, and it can be plain bipolar disorder type 1 or type 2. And it causes an individual to have these periods of their life where they're a little bit more depressive and these periods of life that compensate for those episodes that they become very manic. And you can find all of the specifics about these disorders in my previous videos if you want to get more in depth about the specific mental health issues that I'm discussing and covering. So under bipolar disorder, the people that have been outspoken about it are Catherine Zeta-Jones, Carrie Fisher, Demi Lovato, Jane Foley, Russell Brand, Patty Duke, Jean-Claude Van Damme, Kurt Cobain, Vivian Leigh, Amy Winehouse, Mel Gibson, Michael Douglas, David Harbour, Kanye West, Frank Sinatra, Jimi Hendrix, and Sting. Those have been the biggest names that I have been able to find linked to being openly talking about bipolar disorder and their diagnoses. And while there are still some other people that have some symptoms that may exacerbate it, or they have issues that are kind of linked to it, a little bit correlated with certain disorders, I did not include a lot of names that could be considered under the category, just given the fact that I wanted to include only people that have been open about talking about it, or I have mentioned it in an interview, just because I can't really speak for somebody else until they know themselves a little bit more. I don't want to do that to any celebrities, regardless of their platform or regardless of their fame, just given the fact that we all are on our own journey. Everybody has that. Everybody deals with their mental health. Everybody has fluctuations with their mental health. So I just wanted to keep that respect there, that respect barrier there. Celebrities with borderline personality disorder. Now, borderline personality disorder is a little bit like bipolar disorder in a way. There's impulsivity, there's instability with some things because it comes from a place where their personality needs to constantly change, because the individuals facing this disorder can typically feel lost and they can typically feel a little bit alienated. They're trying to figure themselves out. They want to start fresh. They could be a little bit self-destructive, but it has a lot of layers. And if you are already in a mental health video, you know better than just people being the way they are because they're like that. No, like there's a bunch of experiences, there's a bunch of roads and routes that lead up to the point that they're at right now. They all have reasons to feel the way they do. Their brains all work differently the way they do. So I want to make sure to emphasize that within this video. Those that have dealt with borderline personality disorder, the famous faces that have confirmed it and been open to talk about it have been Princess Diana, Angelina Jolie, Britney Spears, Megan Fox, Marilyn Monroe, Lindsay Lohan, Charlie Sheen, Pete Davidson, and Brand Marshall. Those have been celebrities that have been very open to talk about it, and they have advocated for a couple causes just to destigmatize the mental health field. And again, I'm covering the disorders that I have already discussed in previous videos. There's still a wide spectrum that I need to explore, and there's still many videos that I have anticipating in the future, but I just wanted to go over the ones that I have already kind of touched base on, so that way if you're watching this and then you see something that stands out to you, or you see a certain celebrity that you admire or you look up to, or you're just curious about, or you're trying to connect the dots to be like, that explains why they're like this, or that explains why this and that. No matter what opinion you have of either or, maybe you can be able to easily refer to a previous video that I have discussed already. Now, those that have dissociative identity disorder, which I have discussed before, which is a very unique mental health disorder that causes an individual to dissociate, and they will switch in and out of different alters, or loosely used term would be personalities. So they switch in and out as different identities, as different people, and it's much more unique. It's less common, but it has a very specific criteria to it, and it is very interesting to be able to put names, famous names to it, because you can, I guess, also exercise your compassion muscles and be like, oh, okay, like that makes sense that this person has it, or or even you can understand where it stems from, or if you decide to look back and be monitoring like their overall life, their overall demeanor, you can be able to connect some of the dots. So while there are very few names under this disorder, it still helps to be able to put some names to it. So there's Adam Duntz, Herschel Walker, Aaron Carter, and Roseanne Barr. And because of the fact that it's very rare, that explains why the list is a little bit shorter. But this disorder is very unique, and I go into a little bit of depth of it, even though I myself am still learning more about mental health issues. So I still have a lot to learn, I have a lot to discuss, I have a lot to try to share with you all to try to break the stigma so we can understand each other. And again, my attempt of this video is to make sure that we can all kind of be able to get a glimpse of people that have experienced it, people that have been outspoken about it, and it can help provide somebody with an unlikely resource that they thought they might not have, or they thought they didn't need. Now, another disorder that I discussed was schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is also very rare. It affects about 1% of the population that we know of, and it causes a person to have two different spectrums of it. There will be positive symptoms, which is when something is added to their reality. So while there's the reality that's going on, that a lot of people collectively can agree with, a lot of people collectively witness and experience in day-to-day life, if someone with schizophrenia has those positive symptoms within it, then they will see hallucinations, they'll have delusions, they'll have auditory hallucinations. There will be something added on top of that, kind of like a filter that kind of distorts reality, in the sense where there's extra things around that can distort it a little bit more. Whereas negative symptoms will be something that deprives the individual's reality experience. It'll be speech poverty, it'll be catatonia, it'll be lack of response, etc. So I do discuss it in a little bit more in depth in a previous video, but to list the names, the people that have been open about schizophrenia have been openly diagnosed with it are Aaron Carter, Zelda Fitzgerald, Daniel Hammond, Lionel Aldridge, Betty Page, Edward Einstein, Jim Gordon, Vincent van Gogh, Peter Green, Veronica Lake, Brian Wilson, and Old Dirty Bastard. those have been people who have been openly talking about schizophrenia or that have had a diagnosis of schizophrenia in the celebrity world. Now, I hope this video can be a little bit reassuring. It's a little bit different than the other videos that I typically do go over, but I thought it would be a very interesting kind of approach to the mental health field, because if somebody is, no matter where they are in their mental health journey, whether they've been diagnosed for years, months, weeks, or they're barely trying to pinpoint what it is that they do experience or what it is that they can be diagnosed with, whether they seek therapy, medication, self-care, whatever route you may take, whatever part or point you are in your journey, I feel like if somebody can be reassured that there are other people out there that do have their specific disorder, then it creates a little bit of, okay, like you're not alone, that kind of feeling that you can get through it. There's a community out there, there's outreach, there's a group of people who will be able to relate to you, there's a group of people who can be able to empathize with you. That helps a lot in that, because a lot of mental health stigma has led to that idea that the person is alone, that they're alienated, that they're isolated, that they're odd, they're abnormal, they're outside of typical behavior, so to speak, or typical societal standards. But that's not the case. There are many people who have their own things that they're going through. They have their own journeys. They have their own mental stream. They have their own thought process, their own behaviors and cognitions. And many can fall underneath the category of mental health disorder or a mental health illness or just a mental health phenomenon in general. And typically, I mean, we live in a world where celebrities are out there. Celebrities are on social media, they're in the movies that we watch, they're in the music we listen to, etc. So if you recognize a name, or if there's someone that you look up to, and if that person finds out that they have gone through the same path as them, they've walked down a certain path that they have walked down, it can help the person be able to cope or be able to understand themselves a little bit more, or be able to see an example of what it is. And because of that, they'll be able to educate themselves, whether it be in a way where they're like, oh, I see how that person is, oh, okay, I see how this disorder can go, whether it be one route or the other, whether it be a positive route or a negative route. And it can help a person better understand themselves and better understand what they need to reach out for help. It can maybe provide resources, because while there are some people who are very outspoken, there's some people who advocate for it that I just mentioned in this list. And maybe this sparks a little idea or plants a seed in the viewer's head, and whoever's watching this can think, oh, you know what, let me look up this person, I have social media, let me look up this specific name. And they may find a link where they've discussed it, they may find an interview where they've discussed it, where they've been vulnerable about it, where they have provided resources that have worked for them. They have links, websites, whatever it may be. It is important for us to destigmatize it by openly talking about what we have, what we experience, and if we can look up to celebrities for that, it's very important, because that has a big factor in shaking up that stigma and breaking that barrier of silence or unspoken words or unspoken education about this. It helps break the ice for people to start a conversation and be able to look out of themselves or outreach to others for help. So I hope this has made you feel a little less alienated, a little less isolated in your mental health journey. And I hope that you find the resources from this, you're better able to gather the tools that you need, or just the support in general. And just know that these videos are meant to always destigmatize mental health. These videos are always meant to make you feel that you're not alone, that there is solutions out there, there's someone who understands you, and there's someone who supports you, whether it be me or whether it be anybody else that you have to look into or reference to in the mental health field. I hope this video finds you in a better state of being, in a better mindset by the end of it. So thank you very much for watching, and I wish you a very good mental health day. Thank you.